Welcome everyone. We're going to be running through a short session on what's new in Coast 2.0. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to ask questions during the session, you can post them, and Becca will be responding to those as we go. There'll be an opportunity for some Q&A at the end as well, where perhaps we can discuss any questions that come through that Becca feels we could all do with, I guess, learning a bit more about. So, as Coast users, you would have seen that we deployed the new version of the site last week or the week before. I can't remember, it already seems so long ago. So what we're going to do is talk through the main features of this new upgrade, so you can understand what's in there, what's new. So any kind of candidate or client queries you get, you can respond to. You can just understand what we've done. I guess the first obvious change that we've made is to update the branding for Coast to make it look a bit now rather than the bit 2011. Things do move on in web design quite quickly. So we have a new logo and a new kind of look and feel for the whole site, which we hope you like. We're very pleased with it ourselves. It took a long time for us to settle on the final look. But within that, we've made some changes which are ultimately beneficial primarily to the candidate. It's kind of the important person. And we've always believed in the way we develop psychometrics and other assessments that really it's the candidate experience is paramount. In the end, if you're using psychometrics for recruitment purposes, then you definitely don't want to be upsetting people with a clunky or unfriendly candidate journey. And even with development, where people are perhaps a bit more self-motivated to complete the assessments, you want to make it a high-quality experience, one that matches, I guess, other processes that the organisation offers. As an aside, I guess we've been very interested in the growth in the buzz around game-based assessment and gamified assessment. We feel that very much draws on an increasing demand for assessments for psychometrics to offer a great experience for candidates. So yeah, we're kind of pleased to see it emerging as a stronger theme in assessment. So we're going to take a look at the new candidate journey, its responsiveness features, accessibility, as well as some new profiling capabilities. I'm going to hopefully switch seamlessly to the site itself. There we go. So this is the new interface. This is the page that people will arrive at if you send them there. So if they get the invitation email from Coast, or you just send them the web link, they will arrive at this page. I guess a clarifying point, you may have noticed last year we updated the invitation email that is sent when you register a candidate in Coast yourselves, and that now has an embedded link which just takes people through this page. So they won't see that, they'll see the kind of candidate dashboard that we'll look at in a moment. But if you're doing it more traditionally, where you just send people a Coast link and a campaign passcode, this is where they turn up. We've made it a kind of stronger shop window for Coast so that future users can take a tour and understand the features and benefits of Coast. But we brought this to the front. We've always had practice materials kind of hidden away, but we've made them far more prominent. So for test takers, there's some advice there for how to take different forms of test. But let's take a look at the candidate journey. So I'm going to log in as a new candidate. We asked for gender because we like to personalise the reports. You're about to see what happens when I try and type and talk at the same time. There we are. If people don't want to give their gender, they don't have to, but the candidate reports will be a bit clunky because we have to use him or her and things like that. Right, I'm going to concentrate for a second. Phew, so far so good. You'll remember that the mobile number, again, is optional. If people give us their mobile number, then much like your hairdresser or your dentist, Coast will remind you when you should be doing something. And that's a setting you can change within the campaign settings, in fact. In this case, I've been given a campaign passcode, which I really hope is going to work. I've not made any mistakes on the sign-in. There we are. Okay, I have used that one before. So let me go back and use a different fake email address. On the plus side, it did give us an excellent chance to admire the beautifully crafted tone of voice of the "sorry, you've made a mistake" page. There we are, that's better. So this is the page they would usually arrive at. What it does is present any campaigns that are either underway or yet to be started, and it tells the candidates what they've got to complete. They can do it in any order they like, as you already know. I'm going to just take it in the order in which it's presented, and we'll take a look at the features within each of the candidate journeys for different types of psychometric. So this is the Criterion Personality Questionnaire. The version I'm using here is one of our new standard versions, from which you will be able to generate a whole range of new profile reports, which we will, I guess, touch on later on. Of course, because the Personality Questionnaire is powered by the CAL, the Criterion Attribute Library, you can still customize and build your own questionnaires. But I'm just using one of our standard ones that we've introduced here for the purposes of reporting. We've kind of refined the candidate instructions across all of the psychometrics to offer a softer tone of voice. We're trying to move away from, I guess, the olden days of psychometrics, whereas test instructions were very, very formal. We're trying to use the same sort of language that I guess all organisations try to communicate with externally. So we've softened the language, and we've also acknowledged within the instructions that there's more than one type of device that people might be completing the assessment on, and therefore we can't reference particular forms of response format like radio button or click or things like that. So there we are. I'm going to start the questionnaire. I'm just going to actually touch that last bullet point, which we've introduced at the end of the important points, and we've done this for all of the assessments. As it is, of course, good testing practice to make sure you've got the informed consent of candidates before they complete an assessment. We've made that much more explicit than we used to. It used to be a bit more inferred from the fact that they'd read and understood the important points. Yes, we tightened that up a bit. We don't want to go too far down the route of having a whole page of terms and conditions, like you might have to skip through when you're trying to use iTunes or something. We don't want to get too legal about things, but we do want to, I guess, cover the important points. So let's start the questionnaire. So the look and feel is very different. We've increased font sizes, we've improved the layout, we've made it more visually appealing. There's still the same progress bar monitor indicator up here. We kind of tell you right from the start how many questions there are to get through. We've made this very visual link. It's much harder to skip or miss a question. You can see there's a broken chain. There we are. We might as well touch on responsiveness now. Of course, I'm doing this on a desktop. A handy little shortcut on your browser is if you press F12, you go into the kind of developers console and you see what it looks like on a smaller device. So if I do that now, that's what it looks like on the phone. Obviously it's a bit bigger because we're on a screen. So the first thing we do is acknowledge that we're on a phone, and so the user interface needs to play to the strengths of that. We don't just simply lazily use the radio button interface still. This is called a carousel, in fact. So if I was using my thumb or finger, I could do that. It's a bit like in the old iTunes iPod interface. I love playing with it. There we are, look at that. I'll just do that again. Honestly, it nearly makes it a pleasure. So yeah, you can switch through. Of course, on a mobile phone, well, actually on a mobile phone, I think personality questionnaires, when they are using this style of interface, are actually okay to fill in. I think it's a long scrolling down process, which is a format we're used to. It's a user interface which is common really across all responsive sites now. Yeah, I think it's well, I guess I would say it's a nice interface, but I'll obviously leave you to form your own opinions. We've done some light equivalence testing over the years between devices. We're going to be really on it now because we've got the fully responsive interface, whereas previously it was more kind of responsive. But obviously we'll be keeping an eye on things to make sure we're getting equivalence of testing. So let me just go back to desktop. There we are. So we're 5% through now. I'm not going to drag you through the whole questionnaire. But maybe we'll do one more page. I'll miss one this time. Yeah, review your entries. There you go. That's better. So that's the personality questionnaire interface. Regardless of what version of a Criterion personality questionnaire you're using, that's what you'll see. And you've seen the various devices. Tablets, when you use those, are kind of halfway between the desktop and the smartphone. I would imagine most tablets, being the size they are, will use the carousel rather than radio buttons. But there's a point at which the browser on the device decides to use one or the other, depending on what it knows about its own display capabilities. So I've suspended my personality questionnaire 10% of the way through. Let's look at a test. I've picked a numerical test, although actually it shares many features with verbal tests and others. But this is from the Utopia series, which is our high-level critical reasoning test series. Again, we've refined the user instructions a little to reflect the fact this could be on a phone. I'm going to switch to a phone at this stage because, as far as I know, this should work, even though I'm on a desktop. We have added an additional feature to take into account that there might be people completing tests on a smartphone. Now, my personal view on completing an ability test on a smartphone is it's not in your best interests. The screen is smaller, there will be more scrolling, it will take you a bit longer, and even though we've designed candidate-friendly time limits into all of our assessments, it's still going to take you arguably a bit longer on your phone than it might do on a device with a bigger screen. Now, it's my understanding some test developers, some test publishers have taken quite a strong view on this and actually prevent the user even starting an ability test on a smartphone. That's kind of a position they've taken. We feel in the end that's not candidate friendly. It's actually not user friendly either. It would essentially create aggravation for you if you're getting calls from candidates who can't start the test they've been asked to complete. So what we've done is let people take the test on a smartphone, but if they do, they get this extra paragraph of text on the it's called a light box, on the light box, which normally is the kind of honesty contract. So it essentially says, I'll summarise it, but you're probably reading it, that you can do this on a smartphone, but it might not be in your best interests. Maybe pause and come back to do it on a larger screen. And we think that's kind of the fairest way to handle this. In the end, some smartphones are bigger than others. An iPhone Plus size is enormous. An iPhone 5 is quite small, and other smartphones are available. So in the end, it should be the judgment of the test taker, really. And of course, again, we're going to be monitoring equivalence. But I'm going to take the plunge. There we are. So this is what it looks like on a smartphone. The first thing we have to do is compress the content. If I had my finger here, I would be moving it from side to side to read it, depending on the size of my smartphone. And then I scroll down and I can see the options down here. So it's okay. Like I say, I think if you're really going for a job and you've got to take a test, maybe do it on the desktop, which is a bigger, easier interface. You can see all of the content, and down it goes. Now, with the old Coast interface, we used to get inquiries about the user interface on ability tests, because with the old Coast interface, the content would follow you down. You had the time limit counting down on the right-hand side of the screen. And some people liked that because they could always see the content and how long they had, and some people didn't like it. It wasn't quite 50-50, but it wasn't, I guess, a strong enough difference for us to change it. This new interface, though, does give us the facility to do something about it. So with the content, if it's really bugging you, you can minimize it. So if it's on a verbal test, for example, where the paragraph might be quite long, you might want to hide it so you can read the questions. You can also unpin and pin the content. So if I unpin it, you get the old Coast behavior of it basically stays there. It follows you down the screen, so you can always read it. That might be really useful on a smartphone where obviously there's more to scroll through. So we're giving the user the facility to do both. With the timer, you can hide it. And I'm just wondering where it's got to. I can't quite see it on my screen because of the Join Me interface, but it's just there. You might be able to see it because you can't see the list of people who've joined. But if I click on that and get to it behind everything, I can't get to it because Join Me is hiding it. Try once more. There you go, I've done it. So that has hidden the clock at the top. So for people who don't like the ticking clock, they can now hide it. There it is. No, I'm not going to get to it again. The eye interface, which is similarly a bit obscured on my screen because Join Me has overlaid stuff over it, you can get to the test instructions again. So that's a reminder of how to complete the test if you need reminding. So there you are. Other than that, it's a very similar interface because it's a multiple choice. We've kept the progress bar that you get on the personality questionnaire there, so you can always make sure you haven't missed something. There you are. So other than that, it's a straightforward interface. I'm going to finish the test at this stage because we don't let people suspend ability tests, as you know, because the timer is still going and it wouldn't be a very standardized assessment. Fine, so last but not least, let's take a quick look at an SJT. This is our standard management graduate level situational judgment test. I'm not a big fan of generic off-the-shelf SJTs, but sometimes you haven't got the time or the budget to develop a bespoke one. So again, the instructions have been refined to reflect the fact that it's a timed test. It might be on different devices. And this is probably closer to the verbal test in format because you've got a bigger chunk of text at the top. I can unpin it so it follows me down, but then I can essentially read the solutions and pick least and most. On this SJT, for this particular campaign, I've switched on the option that you've got for all of our Coast SJTs, which is to give the candidate the opportunity to tell us what they think is a more effective approach if they think there's a better way of doing it than the ones up here, which is a nice feature. It appears in the candidate report. You can minimize it if you really don't need, if you can just remember the scenario, you don't need to see it. You can switch the timer off as you can for other time tests, the ability tests, and on a mobile, obviously it squashes it down depending on the size of the screen, and then I guess gives you a slightly longer scrolling journey, but very similar interface. There we are. In terms of accessibility, so this is the these are features for candidates who require adjustments, maybe through some kind of visual impairment. We still offer the same kind of completely compliant accessibility options that we always used to. So we have high contrast, for example, and this will work on desktop or mobile. So that's for someone who really wants to bring up the contrast. What we've removed from the accessibility is the adjusting the size of the font, because really these days that's something the browser will just do. If I absolutely want to zoom in, it's Control and I'm using the mouse here. Whoa, extreme close up. So there you go. So we've decluttered the accessibility interface there, so it just has the different forms of high vis, and of course it's still compliant with screen readers and refreshable braille. I have to be honest, that's not a particularly enjoyable way to take a test. I would strongly personally consider trying to use paper and pencil or something more candidate friendly rather than screen readers. But if someone is doing it remotely and they do want that adjustment, it will work. No, because I hadn't answered it. So that's the features of the user interface that we wanted to draw to your attention. Let's have a quick look at some of the other things which are new in Coast. Can't believe Prezi has started my presentation again. There you go. I'll have strong words with it after this session. So, new profiling capabilities. So, we've got a few more upgrades up our sleeve. We're working on the back end of Coast, so that's the bit you will use when you go into download reports, look at candidates, set up campaigns. It won't have the identical look and feel to the candidate journey, which is of course the more important one, but we will make it more harmonious visually, just so you've also got something nice to look at when you're managing your Coast account. There are other upgrades to the Coast system itself, which we will be introducing and telling you about as we unroll them. But the thing we're focusing our energies on at the moment are the profiling capabilities. So we are upgrading all of the current existing Coast candidate reports. Those will be coming online over the next month. And we're adding new candidate profiling capabilities. We've added 3 already. The first one we introduced a while ago now. This is an onboarding report. So this is completely new. You can create it from any Criterion personality questionnaire that's powered by the CAL. So any customized questionnaire you've created will generate an onboarding report. What it does is kind of fill the gap between a kind of development guidance report you might give a candidate and a narrative report that you really want to give to a trained test user. The primary audience for the onboarding report is actually the line manager. It's the person who's going to be the new hires leader, who's going to be managing them day to day. You can give it to the new hire themselves, but arguably it's the personal feedback report, which is primarily aimed at them. It will give them a bit more information that's kind of tailored to them. What the onboarding report does is summarise what the individual's strengths are from their profile. Now, because you're giving it to a line manager, what you don't want to be doing is scaring them about their new hire. You don't want to be presenting information which looks negative or worrying. It needs to have a kind of feel-good focus in the way it describes the results. So I've sometimes heard this approach described as 10-10, whereby rather than describe results on a kind of 1 to 10 scale, where we have got a low score, which untrained managers can think is a low score, we switch it to be a high score. So in essence, both ends of the scale are a 10. What we also switch are the labels of the scales, depending which end you are. So you can see under interaction here, assertive, because it's a lower score, has become supportive. You can see that wary has switched from resilience, he says, busking it a bit. You can see that sensitivity has switched from, what's that? Stress management, I think, yes. So this is quite new to us as well. But for the line manager, they'll get a description which, you know, is kind of a positive one rather than a negative one. There are more pages to the onboarding report. We will be doing a webinar to take you through all of its features, but that's a quick summary of it. If you want it, you can have it now. Just get in touch and we'll tell you what the process for that is. There's a sales report, which is not for the individual. It is for an interviewer, possibly a line manager, and this is for sales roles. It works when you use one of our new standard versions of the Criterion personality questionnaire. So the 21 scale one we looked at earlier would generate this. And what it does is it generates a sales profile based on this model, which is our own. Again, we will be offering a webinar to take you through the features of the sales strengths profile. But if you want it, it's there now. Again, get in touch and we can tell you about it. And finally, for now, we've got the team strengths report, which again will work from the standard versions of the Criterion personality questionnaire, or actually any questionnaire you've designed using the CAL that's got the right scales in. And if you want to know, we can tell you what those are. They need to be in there because there are algorithms to generate team strengths, which I guess is a familiar concept to those of us who've used Psychometrics for a long time. Again, this is our model. It's based on the kind of widely held view that successful teams have a diversity of different styles within them that will balance each other out, and will, I guess, combine strengths to make it an effective team. Again, we'll be scheduling a webinar to go through this in greater detail, and again, if you want it now, you can have it. Just drop us a line. So that's it. We move into Q&A now, which I understand might require a technical assistant to just come and help me turn people's mics on. I'm hoping we don't get loads of feedback and stuff, but we'll give it a go now. So you're all unmuted, and no swearing, please. It's quite early still. But has anyone got any broad questions that they want to, I guess, pose now? That's fine. I will take that as a compliment to my excellent presenting style and the fullness of the content. If you do have questions, of course, you can get in touch with us. If you're trying to ask and the technology is letting us down, I apologise. I can hear you, so you could, yeah, I'm sure you'd be heard if you wanted to ask a question. So that's it really. Thanks for joining us. We will be publishing a recording of this webinar, so if you want to look at it again or share it, you can. We will be scheduling future webinars based on the new reports as they come online. I think we are also probably in the autumn going to schedule a few more webinars on things like customer experience for candidates, and I think we're going to throw our oar in, as it were, on game-based assessment coming to our view. I know Sten attended one recently, and we're going to kind of build on their excellent webinar. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll speak to you again soon.